Welcome back to my channel. This is Nana Chats. Let's talk being black in law school. 5% of lawyers are black. Ground. It is okay for you to open up and swallow me now. I wanted to die. It's my padfolio. You see it? You see it? The judge was yelling, the prosecution was yelling, the defense was yelling, like everybody was yelling.
I started mine.
Okay, so I just wanted this to be a quick video. I don't want to like ramble on for too long because this isn't as structured as my other videos. Like I don't have notes and all that stuff. We just gonna talk about our feelings, you know, we're gonna talk about how we feel, you feel me? My experience might not be the same experience as other people's experiences because of the school I go to, where it is, who really goes there, stuff like that. Some people may go to certain law schools with more of themselves in it, which is good for them, but I'm just going to be talking about my experience. Only 5% of us are attorneys, meaning we probably won't see that much of ourselves walking through the hallways in law school. You get what I'm saying? When I first walked onto my campus for orientation, I realized, obviously, and the thing is that maybe other people don't realize this as easily because it might not be the thing in the forefront of their mind, but I know for a lot of black people this is something that we often realize from jump when we walk into a place, right? It's like, how many other black people are here? That's one of the things that we just walk into a place and we count. We do a head count. You feel me? So, and that, I think that's just from the life that we live in America, often being one of the very few black people in a room. So I walked into my campus. There were not that many black people at all, like at all. There's like, how many people are in this one class? Like 200 and something people sitting out here right now. I see, I don't even want to exaggerate, like go too much over, too much below. So I'm gonna say like about 10 people, 10 black people here. Okay. That kind of set the tone for my whole year. So, you know, you go into classes and you talk about certain cases, right? And in certain cases, as a black person, you can tell from reading the decision that this doesn't really have too much to do with the law and all of that kind of stuff, right? Even though it does rely on the law or whatever. This case also has a lot to do with race, but nobody wants to say anything about it, right? Example, prime example. I'm in criminal law. There's a case. Let me actually find the case for you. In criminal law, there's a case called Peopppleleeee Gets, right? It is a 1986 case. So basically what happened was, I think it was 4 young men walked up to another, one man who's by himself on the train. The man claims that they either asked him for money or something, so he thought that they were going to rob him. And at this point, they had walked away and like sat down in different places. He pulled a gun on them, so they got afraid, you know. I guess they ran away from him and hid like in different spots on the train, and he chased them down and shot them. So basically, the lower courts dismissed the attempted murder charge, the assault and weapons possession charges, right? That don't sound like something a black man would get away with. That don't sound like something a black man would get away with. And I'm like, how much you wanna bet? The kids that asked for money were black, and because the white man felt threatened, he shot them. How much do you wanna bet? Now, I don't really think we mentioned it too much in class, and even if we did, I think the teacher may have brought it up a little bit, and then everybody like, I don't think it would matter that much, you know, whatever. Either way, the Court of Appeals reversed the lower court's decision and reinstated all counts of the indictment. Cool. But fast forward to a few months later, they come out with this series on Netflix called Trial by Media. And the Getz case is like the second episode of Trial by Media. Okay? And as I said, the man was white and the kids that he shot were black. And guess what? People in the community were like, yeah, we gotta get rid of these thugs.
He did a good thing by shooting them down.
We have to show them we're not scared. The man was followed around, you know, and helped out by the something angels or something, people who were like community watch or whatever. When they looked more into it, he was at community meetings saying the most racist things, talking about if we want to clean up the streets, we need to get rid of the N-words and the S-words and all this stuff, right? So the man was very racist. But we didn't go into it in law school. Why?
Why? Why?
We can't ignore the fact that race and also just social issues, just things that are going on in society, weigh a lot on the way these decisions are made in court. But that's an issue with being black in law school, right? You see a lot of things get skipped over that shouldn't get skipped over and that should be talked about. Now, if you have some great professors like I did, I had some great professors in certain classes who would harp on the fact that this is a racial issue. This is a racial issue in this case, right? And talk about things like that. But sometimes the professors, they're just like, moving on, and you really feel it. Sometimes you're just like, wow, I'm so happy for you. I'm so happy that you have the privilege of not having to think about whether this is a racial issue or not, professor or other students in the class. Congratulations. I love that for you. Hi guys, so I'm editing the video that I recorded earlier today about being black in law school, and I realized that I was talking more about the day-to-day stuff in the video rather than the larger scale stuff, so I'm just going to do that for a minute here. Imposter syndrome takes over. I've spoken about that in a couple of my videos. Being black, but also being a black woman, you walk into a space where there are not too many people that look like you, and you could fall into this thing where you feel like you always have to prove yourself, you always have to be the best, and that takes a toll on your mental health and your emotional health. You feel like, you know, if you're not one of the top 10% of the class, then you're not really doing what you're supposed to be doing as one of the few black people there. Stuff like that really takes over when you're black in law school. If you get cold called on and you get it wrong, now a lot of law students beat up on themselves about that, but I'm sure that as a person of color, black, Hispanic, whatever, Latinx, Asian, because there's not too many Asians in law school either, so, or being attorneys. So as a person of color, as a minority, you beat up on yourself more than the average student would, because you're like, wait, I'm like one of 4 black kids in this class, and the professor called on me and I couldn't answer the question right. Like, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a black student. I have to prove to these people that I'm smart, or I have to prove to these people that I belong here too. But to be honest, girl, you ain't gotta prove nothing, boy. You ain't gotta prove nothing. You feel me? We all got in here with good grades, obviously. So we're here because we're supposed to be here. So that can take over sometimes, and what we have to do is just check ourselves when that pops up. So yeah, there's that. Another thing that's kind of interesting about being black in law school is that, especially in the school that I go to, it's not just a race issue, right? It might also be a class issue, right? Because a lot of these kids, I'm sure, and not just kids, like grown people too, don't have black friends, have never had a black friend, didn't go to school with many black people, and have a lot of money, right? So obviously that skews the way they think and the things that they say. So I remember like my first week in school, this one white guy, older man, was talking to his friends in the hallway, and he was squatting, right? And they like kind of made fun of him for squatting while waiting for class, and he was like, it's better for your back, right? And then he goes, people in third world countries, because they don't have chairs, all they do is squat, so their backs are really good because they don't have chairs. What? Like what? Oh my god. From that day on, I was like, my headphones are gonna be up for the rest of like my law school career. The noise in my headphones is gonna be on blast because I really cannot listen to this type of ignorance. Some countries, some cultures just don't use chairs because it's not in their culture to use a chair, but a lot of third world countries have chairs. So you hear a lot of stuff like that all the time. You'll hear people making excuses for a lot of things that are racial, and they're just gonna be like, oh no, it's not racial, it's fully based on this theory or the law or whatever, and it's not. So that happens a lot. And then another thing that happens is when conversations about race come up in class and you are one of the other 3 black kids in the class, everybody looks at you to answer the question, right? Or like they expect you to have something to say, or they expect you to speak on behalf of all the blacks. That's another thing, but I'm gonna get to that. All the blacks, right? They expect you to be the spokesperson for every African American in America, and that can be very emotionally taxing. It can be draining right? It really drains energy. So that's another thing. Now let's talk about the blacks real quick. There are some teachers that really mean well, and I feel like those professors that they mean well. If you hear them saying the blacks and they don't say the whites in contrast, then it's something that you could bring up, like, hey, so I noticed that you say the blacks but you say white people when it comes to white people. I just wondered if you ever thought about that, or if you've ever been told about that, or I just wanted to let you know that it's a little bit Now, not all black people feel the same way, obviously. Personally, it's interesting to me when professors or other students say the blacks, right, but then say white people, right? Because if you're gonna say the blacks, then you can say the whites, right? Or if you're gonna say white people, then you can say black people. But when you say the blacks as opposed to white people, like, they're human beings, but the blacks, it's just like this whole group of things that aren't really human beings when you comparing them to white people. It's like Negro. It's like the N-word, right? It just feels that same way, like the blacks. I don't know. I don't know. If y'all know and can better articulate what that feeling is, please put it in the comments down below so I know how to express what that feeling is better when they say the black. Also, in America, race and class are often very closely correlated. There's not a whole lot of us that are wealthy, like very wealthy, and have generational wealth. But there are a lot of white students who probably have generational wealth. Now the thing is, because they are more of the majority in America, it's not like a lot of them are not on welfare, right? Or a lot of them are not in the same class as a lot of black people. But especially if you go to a private law school, stuff like that, those white students usually have parents with a lot of money. Or they're like a first, second, third generation attorney, meaning their parents are attorneys, their parents, like they have a whole line of attorneys in their family, or people who have been to law school in their family, their sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, and uncles. Whereas a lot of black people don't have that. So they'll say things like,
oh yeah, I already have a job, like, at the end of this, so I'm just here to get my degree.
Or, all of that. And it's just interesting because some people might not think it has anything to do with race. Some people might think it has a lot to do with race. I think it does have some things to do with race. Now, I'm not saying those people are racist, but it's just an interesting commentary. Like, it's interesting to listen to those things and then think about how they relate in society and in the America that we live in today. A lot of the time what I do is I remember that I don't have the generational wealth. I can't just play around here. Or I'm going to pick my battles because I don't have enough thoughts to waste on correcting ignorance that somebody has worked on building for about 30 years, 40 years, even if it's only 24 years. Ignorance that you've worked on, I'm not going to spend my energy and my thoughts trying to dismantle your ignorance with like a 5-minute statement in a class of people who agree with you. You know what I'm going to do with those thoughts? I'm going to try to get a better grade than you. Right? So like that's kind of how I've been going through law school. So it's just you remembering why you're there. What's your goal? Where are you trying to get, right? Where do you want to be? Now, are you going to waste the thoughts? Because there are so many thoughts that you have to think during even one class in law school. So imagine a whole day at law school. Are you going to waste your thoughts for that day on somebody's ignorance or how somebody's going to piss you off in class because it's inevitable, it's going to happen? Or are you going to use those thoughts to get to where you're trying to go? So that when you get there, you can pull other black people up with you and people can't help but notice. They have to notice that, oh no, these people they're not everything that we're making them out to be. They're not everything that we say they are. Nah, we're not that. And we're coming for your positions and you know that, and that's why you're scared. Anyways, so that's just my little commentary on being black in law school. I'm sure there are some things that I missed. If you know the feeling, the comment section. I want to read all of it. All of it I want to read. But thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate y'all being here. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Also hit that notification bell down below, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye guys.